nothing could keep you down. Nothing could keep you down.
In this documentary, I'm going to highlight 2 less-known facts about this man here. Frederick Douglass. What a man! And what a life he lived. It is said that he passed through every gradation of rank comprised in our national makeup and bears upon his person and his soul everything that is American. I have only known half-body portraits of Frederick Douglass, even though it is said he was the most photographed man of the 19th century. This is what I found at the Museum of African American History, at 46 Joy Street, Boston.
Frederick Douglass, you're my hero, 'cause nothing could keep you down.
Frederick Douglass would have been a savvy social media devotee, as he continually updated his public persona, projecting a continually evolving self. By doing so, he was defying the static foundations of both slavery and racism, which were predicated on the idea that some people of a certain race are somehow immutably inferior to others. Trust me, he was the public face of America in the 19th century. Frederick Douglass was not only a leading orator, best-selling writer, influential editor, and important intellectual who advised every president from Lincoln through Grover Cleveland, his image was also ubiquitous. Douglass appeared on the cover of the leading magazines and newspapers, in advertisements and political cartoons, on the walls and mantelpieces of homes and offices, on murals, statues, paintings, and drawings, and in family photo albums throughout the United States and Britain. It is mind-boggling to think that this former slave was photographed more often than the other towering figures of his time, such as General Custer, Walt Whitman, Ulysses Grant, and Abraham Lincoln. Perhaps even more astounding, the only contemporaries to surpass this remarkable legacy in pictures are members of the combined British royal family. Douglass and photography grew up together. He had escaped from slavery in 1838, a year before Daguerre and Henry Fox Talbot created the first forms of photography. He began his career as an abolitionist orator in 1841, just as technical improvements reduced exposure times, enabling the proliferation of daguerreotype portraits. He recognized the power of photography. Among other Americans, he believed that this Matthew Brady's photograph of Abraham Lincoln, taken in February 1860, helped elect him to the presidency. At the time, Lincoln's candidacy was a long shot, as he was virtually unknown in the East. After Brady's photograph circulated widely in newspapers and became ubiquitous during the campaign, Lincoln purportedly said that Brady's portrait elected him. Douglass was of the same observation: the portrait makes the president. Douglass wrote more extensively on the medium than any peer. He frequented photographers' studios. He was a theorist of the technology and a student of its social impact, one of the first to consider the fixed image as a public relations instrument. Indeed, the determined abolitionist believed fervently that he could represent the dignity of his race, inspiring others, and expanding the visual vocabulary of mass culture. Frederick Douglass considered photography the most democratic of arts, a crucial aid in the quest to end slavery and achieve civil rights. He understood it would take more than words and war to grant African Americans public register of their humanity. He had seen enough caricatures of blacks, their faces nose deep in watermelons or dangled above lakes as alligator bait. He despised drawings portraying his people with exaggerated features, slack-jawed expressions, or as giddy slaves. Such images, Douglass knew, reinforced white supremacy by presenting black people as simple-minded and subjugated. Almost to the end of his life, he refuted the racist caricatures of blacks as happy slaves and servants. He presented himself, in dress, pose, and expression, as a dignified and respectable citizen. He went so far as to say that the moral and social influence of pictures was more important in shaping national culture than the making of its laws. Nowadays, his portraits serve as an important visual legacy. In the thousands of murals, sculptures, paintings, prints, drawings, postage stamps, and magazine covers based on Douglas photographs, his face and demeanor broadcast a protest against lynching and segregation.
Read were the first words of the prophet. Read, just like Frederick Douglass. Read, like my mother told me. Read.
From Boston I take you to Lynn, where this larger-than-life figure lived between 1841 to 1848. That's an amazing fact to discover. Because, I do frequent Lynn, which is in my neighborhood, and like my friends and many Lynn resident, I was unaware that I have been walking and driving past historical monuments honoring Frederick Douglass. It was a center for abolitionism. When Douglass came to Lynn, he was virtually unknown. He was 23 years old. It's while living in Lynn that he cultivates the force that he became as a great orator and intellectual speaker, so much so that many doubted he had ever really been a slave. It is in responding to that skepticism that Douglass wrote the autobiographical narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. On September 28, 1841, Douglass experienced what has been baptized the first Rosa Parks moment when he was forcibly ejected from a Boston to Portland, Maine train for refusal to ride in Jim Crow car. He believed he deserved better, having paid the full required payment. It is the most famous public incident in the history of Lynn. For several days after the incident, the trains went dashing through Lynn without stopping. Here is the Lynn train station in Central Square, same location where the old train depot used to be. At the corner of Broad and Market Streets is where the first of the 3 Douglass family homes in Lynn used to stand. Probably around here.
Were the first words of the prophet. Read, just like Frederick Douglass. Read, like my mother told me. Read, just like Frederick Douglass.
The second home was on Baldwin to the corner of Baldwin and High Streets. There are no street signs at all at this corner, but Pearl Street is now Baldwin Street. Probably around here.
He walked on water.
On Newhall Street between Sagamore and Sitcham Streets is where the third Douglass family home in Lynn once stood. It is while living here that he wrote his narrative, and where he had left his family while he was in the British Isles from August 1845 to April 1847. It is also where he returned after arriving in Boston on April 20, 1847. Even though most Lynn residents may not be aware about the history of this famous figure among them, the city is alive to it. At the Lynn Common is the Frederick Douglass Bandstand, built 1887. The bandstand was originally just known as the Lynn Bandstand up until the Lynn Common Council recommended the renaming of the structure in 1944 in honor of Frederick Douglass. He delivered some of his passionate and anti-slavery speeches from this bandstand. It has been the center stage for thousands of concerts in the city. A plaque in his honor and memory at the front of the bandstand was unveiled in 1995 to marking 100 years since Douglass died.
Heart can despair, but a heart that...
In 2015, at the 25 Exchange Street, a stone's throw from the commuter train stop and the Lynn Museum, is this mural on the side of the Arts Building, crowned by portrait of Frederick Douglass among other Lynn notable sons and daughters.
Frederick Douglass, you're my hero, 'cause nothing could keep you down. Nothing could keep you down.